When you say T series, the first thought that probably crosses your mind is the music label from India, which has one of the largest collection of Bollywood music that's available out there, and of course, the biggest YouTube channel in the world. Also the reason why bitch lasagna exists.
Bob's or Vagana, whichever will it be. Set the fuck down, T-Series, I'm here to spill the real tea.
However, within the offices of Xiaomi India, the T series would probably evoke a different reaction. The T suffix in the Redmi Note lineup indicates technology, as mentioned by one of the Xiaomi spokesperson that I asked. And technology for Xiaomi in 2021 is 5G. It started off with the Redmi Note 10T 5G and has now extended to the Redmi Note 11T 5G, which is basically a rebadged variant of the Redmi Note 11, which was launched in China sometime earlier last month. However, by now we know that the 5G suffix in any phone's name would indicate that we have to pay a certain 5G tax, where Xiaomi would have to make careful compromises to ensure that certain parts of the hardware are removed so that you can get a good overall phone. Now, whether it is actually a good overall phone or not is something that I'm going to be evaluating in my full review and compare it against its immediate competitors as well. If you don't know me yet, I'm Arshad, you're watching MySmartPrice. Let's get this video started. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever MySmartPrice English puts out an awesome new tech video. Now, the first compromise starts with the material used in the construction of the phone. Now, the Note 11T 5G has a plastic back and frame. The textured, slightly sandpaperish feel of the rear adds to the overall plasticky feel as well. Now, the camera module is slightly raised from the back as usual. However, what I found odd was the fact that despite including only 2 cameras on the Note 11T 5G, Xiaomi's engineers thought it would be fine to still include a massive module with an extra row of fake camera rings for marketing AI. Visually, it's actually fine considering the symmetry has been well maintained out here on the camera module. However, I can't shake off that feeling that Xiaomi has done this on purpose to make consumers think that this phone actually has 4 cameras instead of 2. Anyway, moving on, as for the rest of the hardware, Xiaomi leaves no stone unturned as usual. Now, first things first, there's IP53 rating for dust and splash protection, which is great in this price range. Furthermore, you get a nice and tactile volume rocker along with the power button on the right edge at the optimum position. Now, this power button also houses the physical fingerprint scanner, which can unlock the phone in a jiffy. Then you have the Type-C port at the bottom with the 3.5mm headphone port. There is a proper stereo speaker setup too on the top with the second grille and an infrared port too. Now, the audio performance on the Redmi Note 11T 5G is great. You get a 3.5mm jack with support for 24-bit 192kHz streams. And when you switch on the high-res setting, I noticed that it could drive my Moondrop Blessing 2 with ease, and it sounds pretty clean too, especially for a budget phone. So I could recommend this phone to many people looking for great audio performance through the headphone jack. As for the stereo speaker setup though, I feel that there is definitely a channel imbalance where the top speaker actually sounds much feeble compared to the bottom one in whichever orientation you hold it. By the way, I also noticed some confusion around the memory card slot, and I can confirm that the Redmi Note 11T 5G most definitely has a micro SD card slot in the hybrid SIM tray that is available on the phone. GSM Arena's listing, I think, needs to be corrected. Now, the design of the Redmi Note 11T 5G is nice enough with a good in-hand feel as well, thanks to the controlled weight of 195 grams. That said, owing to the chip shortage and the constantly increasing prices of phones, the Note 11T 5G is priced very similarly to the Note 10 Pro. And you will agree that the Note 10 Pro has a design that is leagues better with its glass back and classier frosted back shades. In fact, even the Realme 8S is a nice matte plastic frame as opposed to the shiny glossy one on the Redmi Note 11T 5G, which I'm not really a big fan of. Now, if you've come this far and if you like the kind of content that we make, then don't forget to hit that like button and maybe even comment below, because YouTube values engagement, and the algorithm pushes this video to more people looking for content around the Redmi Note 11T, especially if you want to recommend a nice, fair, unbiased review to more folks. Now, the Note 11T 5G has a 6.6-inch display up front. Now, this is an IPS LCD panel with FHD plus resolution and wideband L1 support. There's absolutely zero support for HDR playback. No, it does not even work on YouTube. Also, the color calibration is slightly off even in the standard setting where it looks warmer than usual. As for the brightness levels, phones like the Realme 8s and the Note 10 Pro can get brighter. You do get support for 90Hz adaptive refresh rate. Essentially, the display can switch between 50Hz, 60Hz and 90Hz as the situation demands. Now, those aren't too many variations, I know, but for what it's worth, it works fairly well, and the 90Hz scrolling animation looks pretty smooth as well in daily use, so I really don't have any complaint per se. And more importantly, the variable refresh rate would actually help with battery life improvements, something which I'll talk about more in the battery section of the review. Moving on, the display also offers a touch response rate of 240Hz, which feels extremely responsive in everyday use and while playing games too. What's also fantastic is the haptic feedback. It has been further tightened now. In fact, I feel this is almost as good as any super mid-range phone. Overall though, the Redmi Note 10 Pro's display is far better than any other panel in this price range with its Full HD Plus resolution, 120Hz refresh rate and AMOLED tech as well. Plus you get HDR support and more importantly, the brightness levels are much higher compared to something like the Redmi Note 11T 5G. Therefore, I feel that even today, if somebody asks me for a great display experience on a phone under Rs 20,000, I easily pick the Redmi Note 10 Pro or the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max, which actually has become more expensive now. And I'm presuming that the Redmi Note 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Plus will be even more expensive. It's been a while since I've seen a dual camera setup on a phone. The Redmi Note 11T 5G has a single 50 megapixel shooter and an 8 megapixel ultra wide on the rear. Now, I did ask Xiaomi about the make of the 50 megapixel camera and they mentioned multiple vendors as usual, so we don't have a handle on that. Now, let's find out if these austere specifications are actually a match for the competition in this price range, which is the Realme 8s and of course the Redmi Note 10 Pro. Starting with the details, the Redmi Note 11T 5G's 50MP camera is no match for the 64MP sensors inside the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max and the Realme 8s. You get sharper textures on the Note 10 Pro Max and the Realme 8s samples at close crop. As a matter of fact, I noticed the Redmi Note 10 Pro tends to oversharpen slightly as opposed to the Realme 8s. However, I'm just nitpicking on the technicalities here and most users might actually prefer it because it's not really overbearing. Moving on, when it comes to color accuracy, the Redmi Note 11T 5G falters badly. From the reds to the blues to the greens, every single color has been inaccurately rendered here. The green color of the chair is closer to natural looking on the Realme 8s sample, interestingly. Now the reds and the blues on the other hand are closer to true to life on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. In fact, there is some added contrast in most of the Note 10 Pro's shots, therefore it also looks more attractive as a result. Now when it comes to the dynamic range performance, all the three phones are almost equally matched if you ask me. The only issue with the Realme 8s is that when it fires the HDR mode, it tends to botch up the colors, especially that of the sky. It doesn't look that blue. Now only the Redmi phones offer an ultra-wide shooter, but I really prefer the color reproduction of the Note 11T 5G. The Note 10 Pro on the other hand tends to offer a brighter, more vibrant exposure, making it look more appealing. Now, if you are a fan of capturing macros, the Redmi Note 10 Pro should be your go-to phone. It captures such detailed macros, it can compete even with the expensive flagships. So yeah, you lose out on that in the Redmi Note 11T 5G. Now, the Realme 8s does offer you a 2MP macro though. Now, moving on to the human subject pictures, note that these samples were shot using the rear camera and not the selfie camera. You will see that the Note 11T 5G picks up the reds in the face. The Realme 8s has the closest to natural facial tone of the three, plus it isn't as badly oversharpened as the Redmi Note 10 Pro. My only concern with the Realme 8s's capture is the cool cast over the jacket and my shirt inside, therefore botching up the colors. But when it comes to portraits, Xiaomi's algorithm is leagues better than Realme's. Both the Note 10 Pro Max and the Note 11T 5G offer cleaner cutouts and a better depth of field simulation. In fact, it looks like Xiaomi has further enhanced the algorithm on the Note 11T 5G. It is more confident with the blurring effect in the background and the portrait looks a lot like a DSLR image would. Now, I don't even have to say it clearly, the Redmi Note 11T 5G and the Realme 8s offer the best selfies here. But the Realme 8s has an edge with its close to accurate facial tone and overall better color temperature reproduction as well. Against the light, however, the Redmi Note 11T 5G is better. The situation is similar when it comes to selfie portraits, where the Redmi Note 11T 5G and the Realme 8s clearly take the lead. But if you are shooting selfies in low light, the Realme 8s and the Redmi Note 10 Pro offer a night mode as well. However, the Realme 8s's low light selfies look the best overall. So when it comes to human subject shots using the rear camera and the selfie camera, the Realme 8s and the Note 11T 5G would be my picks for the best camera setup over the Redmi Note 10 Pro. I'm glad Xiaomi has fixed my biggest concern with the Redmi Note 10 Pro's cameras, which is pictures of people. Now the Redmi Note 11T 5G's low light performance with night mode on is disappointing to say the least. The Note 10 Pro Max and the Realme 8s offer sharper textures and a brighter exposure, but both the phones really bungle up the color science so badly. Realme's image has a terribly green overcast, whereas the Redmi Note 11T 5G shoots up the reds. I'd still pick the Note 10 Pro if I were to shoot pictures in the night. Finally, in video recording, you can shoot up to 1080p 60fps videos on the Redmi Note 11T 5G. The Realme 8s tops out at 1080p 30fps. The Note 10 Pro can shoot up to 4K 30fps. Now, in my 1080p 60fps test, the Redmi Note 10 Pro's footage looks sharper, offers better contrast and audio quality as well. Both the phones don't offer image stabilization in this setting. That said, the sound recording is actually the best on the Realme 8s. But the 1080p 30fps recording quality is still the best on the Redmi Note 10 Pro. In my 1080p 30fps testing, I noticed that the Note 11T 5G tends to hunt for focus a lot and has a lot of tonal shifts as well. The footage looks very jarring. And when it comes to stabilization, the Realme 8s is extremely janky compared to the Redmi's.
I'm shooting a 1080p 30fps video on the Realme 8s, T5G and the Redmi Note 10 Pro Max. This is what the footage looks like. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about the image quality, the image stabilization and the sound recording. This is how the picture quality looks like.
Now the same is true for front camera video recording, where the Redmi Note 10 Pro creams the Redmi Note 11T 5G and the Realme 8s in every single parameter: stabilization, details, dynamic range and sound. The Note 10 Pro would easily be my go-to camera for shooting videos. Now overall, between these three phones, I'd still pick the Redmi Note 10 Pro as my favorite camera setup because it's very versatile. It gives you a lot of options, including macro and ultra wide and all of these options. Plus the daylight performance when you're shooting landscape shots is pretty good too. Having said that, the human subject pictures are not that great on the Redmi Note 10 Pro, which has been fixed very well on the Redmi Note 11T 5G. In fact, the Realme 8s is a nice balance between the two, where it gives you fairly decent landscape pictures and of course offers you good human subject shots as well, but it doesn't offer you too much versatility, and that's where it loses out, especially with the lack of the ultra wide angle camera. Now as for the software, it is the same MIUI 12.5 experience based on Android 11 that we've experienced all of 2021. It is feature packed and doesn't include ads in the system level anymore. But yes, you will have to be content with a lot of unwanted apps which can be deleted. Thankfully, I didn't notice any bugs as such, but once in a while the Albums app would take time to render the full image. In fact, I noticed that once I took a picture, it would take a while to process, but I suppose this could be a Dimensity 810 issue and not really a software one. Overall though, it is the same MIUI experience that continues to be polarizing. Some love it, some hate it. Which camp are you on? Let me know in the comment section below. Now the Redmi Note 11T 5G uses the MediaTek Dimensity 810 SoC and is available in 6GB or 8GB RAM variants. Now this is the first time I've actually used the MediaTek Dimensity 810. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to use the 8S before this, and I actually expected it to be more powerful than the Dimensity 800U considering the nomenclature, but that's not really the case. In all my benchmark tests, the Dimensity 800U outperforms the Dimensity 810. But it goes without saying that the Dimensity 810 is more powerful than the Snapdragon 732G inside the Redmi Note 10 Pro. I also ran Call of Duty Mobile and noticed that Note 11T 5G can only hit a max graphics setting of medium and high frame rates. This is even true for the Realme 8S, which is the other phone with Dimensity 810. But I think this could be an optimization issue rather than the capability one, because PUBG New State runs at ultra graphics and max frame rates. Now if you're a gamer, it's easy for me to recommend the Poco X3 Pro or the Realme Narzo 30 Pro over these phones. Otherwise, the performance on the Note 11T 5G is not too bad. It runs cool and doesn't stutter in daily performance. Now the 4G performance on this phone is great, nothing to complain about. The call quality is good too. I faced no issues. The earpiece quality sounds great too. Now much like most phones under 20k this year, the Redmi Note 11T 5G also has a 5000 mAh battery. Now the battery life on the Redmi Note 11T 5G is great through and through. You can get more than 8 hours of screen on time easily depending on your usage, which is about a day and a half worth of usage, so that's good. Also, with the bundled 33-watt charger, you can charge the phone from 0 to 100 in under 1 hour and 15 minutes. Irony time. Now I've said 5G so many times in this video already, but I cannot really test it because it's not commercially available yet in our country. Obviously, the rollout could happen by the end of 2022, and that's something to look forward to. Having said that, brands will continue to market this term over and over again to make you believe that you need a 5G phone, But if it has so many compromises, do you really need one? That's something that you need to decide for yourself. And when you're talking about compromises, the Redmi Note 11T 5G is the prime example of that. Now, since the Redmi Note 11 Pro and the Note 11 Pro Plus have also launched in China and they're expected to launch in India soon in whatever avatar that they will, you might want to wait for them, but I presume that it will be more expensive than 20,000 considering the global chip shortage and the way the market is now evolving in 2021, at the end of 2021 and the start of 2022. Therefore, at least until the Redmi Note 10 Pro is on sale, I'd easily recommend this phone over the others for the best well-rounded phone under rupees 20,000. It definitely has a better design, it has a better display, and of course, a more versatile set of cameras. But if you're torn between the Redmi Note 11T 5G and the Realme 8S, I'd pick the Redmi Note 11T. So yeah, what do you guys think of the Redmi Note 11T and this video? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Aishar from MySmartPrice signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.